afternoon, nature's neighbor. Here I am again with my co-host Josh, and I am off in the beginning of this today. Welcome back.
Because it's 80 degrees, January something.
We totally are like not knowing what the day is.
Life
what
is a
time
beach right
is
now.
it? Because feel how warm it is outside. And we had last Monday off because we had family time. We had a situation where family needed us most, and that's what we were all doing.
We love that.
So we had to postpone last week's show, but we're back to whatever normal is. But I don't even know how to feel normal when it's 70 degrees in January and I'm in flip-flops.
Yeah, I know. We got some inches of rain in, so that's the only comfortable part, and let's hope
It's beautiful.
more is on the way, maybe next month.
Next week.
Next week,
There's
even better.
there's some coming next week, and
Okay,
not
yeah.
a lot. Not the forecast.
One storm, maybe.
Yeah, there is. You know, who's to say anybody knows how to forecast anything anymore? Because you know, the last storm was supposed to be big, but nobody expected it to be as big as what it was.
Yeah, we
And
really
so,
did get some.
You know, and here we
inches.
are. You know, how do we function when all of us want to pretend like it's springtime already? And
Even my peach tree, one of them was already wanting fruit. I'm like, come on.
yeah, well,
It's a little warm, a little too warm.
I'm a little worried. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not to you know put a cloud over the beautiful sun and the warmth, but I mean that cold serves a purpose, and the big purpose is the fact of how bad insects can't survive when it's cold, and then we're warm, and you know the issues that we had with flies and you know beetles and different things this year because of how long it was warm. And, you know, we had too many hosts. For instance, in Templeton, you know, they had the Templeton Feed and Grain Fire. So with all that water and all that, you know, debris and everything that was going on, we had a host of flies, you know, multiplying upon multiplying and everything else that comes with it, you know. But the cold definitely took care of most of it, but it wasn't cold enough long enough.
Yeah, we didn't even that cold even.
No,
yet this
I mean,
year.
personally, I love it, but you know, when you're a farmer and or you're in this industry that you can't have bad bugs, you know.
Well, you need your seasons to perform.
We need seasons.
We need to have all the things that we want to naturally happen, you know, without us having to intervene. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that topic, I want to just remind people that, you know, we are live on YouTube, and we're also live on Facebook. And are we also live on Instagram? We're live on Instagram too. So,
Sure, why not?
You know, I have to ask the producer because I don't know all that stuff. So Miguel helped us out with that. So you guys are more than welcome to chat in any of those locations and reach out to us if you have a question, you have a topic, you just want to, you know, get an announcement out there, you know, share with Josh and I, this is what this iPad thing is in the middle of us now, is because we're going techie on this whole iPad. We got the split screen going on. You know, we look like we're professionals here. But there's a lot to cover because this is January. This is the middle of January. This is a customer came in the other day and she reminded me what I was going through. And I was laughing because she was like, Noli, I haven't seen you because, you know, December is all about, and I'm like, yeah, getting your permits paid for. She goes, right? And I'm like, yep, we paid for all our permits so we can keep farming or keep doing business, you know, a health permit, nursery stock license, packet permits, like all those permits are paid for in January. Or, excuse me, by December 31st, right? What is January? January is reporting. Now we have to report all the things we did last year to be able to show that we're legit, right? So everything is about reporting. And then, of course, January 30th brings sales tax reporting. But, you know, there's a lot of all, you know, things, and then corporate tax and all this stuff that is due this time in January, right?
When everything's winding down and it's not really producing, and so you're like, great, I got to pay a lot and I'm not producing a lot.
It's good that it's normally due this time. I just wish it never was due. I hate doing it, but you know, normally it's rainy and cold or cold, so it's
you can be indoor work.
Yeah, and I haven't. I might be, you know, to all my regulators, I might be a little behind because it's too pretty outside. You know, I've been making in the cold mornings.
That's the problem with global warming.
Yeah, in the cold mornings,
nice
I've been making sourdough bread, and then as soon as the sun comes out, I'm outside.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and then I'm
so
like,
warm in the sun lately. Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Like, help me.
Well, everything's activating too. So it's like I've been having to water now that we got
Stop
seed
looking
down.
out there. Look at it's so beautiful out there right now.
And it's just weeds.
It's green.
Yeah, it's just
green.
Exactly green time of the year.
Yeah. And so, I laughed because when she came in to talk to me, I was like, yeah, you reminded me all the things that we're supposed to be getting done. But at the same time, we were both talking about how many people don't realize, again, putting it out there, what's really going on right now. Because the business end of things pays the tax. Yes, your income taxes pay a lot, right? Your personal income tax if you're an employee. But property taxes, all these things are happening and it's changing. There is nothing out there right now that is exactly the same way it was 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, okay? Everything has drastically changed. So what's happened? We have a lot of society that has either retired, so they're not in the business industry of it anymore, or then we have too many people that might not necessarily be in a, as an employee, they don't see what the business end of it is, what the businesses are having to deal with, right? I don't know very many employees that understand what's going on in a business. But then I've also realized there's a lot of educated people that know what they know from, college or, schooling. But by the time they go into the workforce from that school, things have changed again.
Yeah.
So there's that.
The streetscapes change. You got to have street smarts,
constantly, and
update.
So how do we catch up? How do we teach? How do we get all this stuff done that is required to keep things going? How do we teach, and then how do we keep it all?
Yeah.
Before we know it, it's going to change again.
And it's sort of just again like our favorite word, accountability. It's like But
accountability when you don't even know what you're supposed to be doing. You cannot have accountability when you're like, wait, what was I supposed to do?
We got to talk about where are we doing with our money and where is it going? Like are we keeping money in the community through the business that we're giving to, or are we sending money to far off, kind of billionaires? And so that's sort of the system now, and everything's, sort of settling out. So like you said, all these costs are going up, even on the retail side and the other side of the economy. I mean, everything is just ballooning. And so we really have to figure out why are we doing these regulations? And I think, like you said, the education is, so there's not that big gap between like an employee or a customer and a business owner or somebody in the industry where, why are we getting charged from, the left and the right, politically and figuratively? I mean, we're just saying like you're getting big business, taxing you, and then you're also getting the government taxing you, and then you're paying out both sides. So something's got to give here, and I think that's the thing. And regulation is something that always is on a scale with commerce. So if we're gonna have more commerce, and I just was seeing something I wanted to tell you before we were, on the air, but it was even Ohio found a way to keep $3 billion by prioritizing some of their, local contracts to local businesses. And so Scotland today is trying to put through laws where it's a, national, like kind of workers co-op or, small business is winning over big business.
Yeah, and the true definition.
So there's a few other places that are examples of that.
The true definition of co-op is multiple ownership, but the ownership is accountability, right? And it's
so why can't we produce some of our own? And that's what I'm saying. Why don't we go into co-ops?
Has changed so much in our political landscape that we have because of liability and because of accountability, realistically, or the way that we
manipulate words, all fresh ingredients, and
we
like
also
natural.
have the right to sue in this state, let alone in this country. Everything is
the
about.
cooperation isn't there.
Throw
That's
it out
one
there,
of the problems.
and then we're going to wait to see if a lawyer catches it, and if that lawyer catches it, is it going to court? Because then, just like if we vote on things, right? We vote on it. But now it's going to go to the courts.
Yeah.
So why do we vote, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, what is driving this? The funny thing about voting for me now, really looking at things, is we vote for things, and then it's what we voted for isn't really what we got. And so then we have to wait for the courts to translate it and write it right. Meanwhile, certain levels of corporation or certain levels of business structures are capitalizing on it being in the courts,
yes.
right? And then we write regulation, and then it's like, okay, you can do this, but you can't do that. Well, who's enforcing it? Well, we don't have enough money yet because we haven't generated enough tax or enforcement violations to employ somebody to go out and enforce this.
Yeah, some people are breaking the law and not paying.
So you're telling me to become legal and compliant to pay for that permit or to pay for that compliancy so that you could then come back and police me.
Yeah.
Because you don't have enough money to actually regulate the problem that the voters have that have voted for.
Yeah, and you're sort of small enough to get caught. And so you can't even afford that. So everything's just kind of tugging each other down.
I've been caught.
Yeah, so that's why I think voting with our dollar is
not
really,
even knowing that there was something wrong or right.
Yeah.
But it's also, with me, the difference with me is eat, sleeping, and this every single day. I don't know why, but I can teach this. I can do this. I can keep up with this to some extent. I know I'm not doing it all right, but at the same time, I have every intent to.
Yeah.
And what is it?
Well, the scale is really the right thing for business.
My desire, my want to continue is to be able to maintain the soil that I stand on, grow something from it, whether it be animals, bees, plants.
Kids.
Yeah, kids are
Happy
done.
puppies.
Kids are raised, but I'm realizing that the stage of 20 is harder than
sure they
newborn.
eat there still.
And so
as they can.
there's a different challenge in our home right now with being 20 and feeling like you're an adult, but are they really adults, right?
Well, you want their help still too because you got a big space.
But at the same time, it's like the 20-year-olds that know it all, but yet do they? Because they haven't been experienced, but yet society has told them they are an adult, right? But yet experience. Remind you, they're 20-year-olds. These kids came out of the media influence COVID. Pandemic, right? Yeah. And what do I say by that? Because, talking with people in different states, how their 20-year-olds did
different social norms
different
now.
social, and where mine went through a different thing, but yet it was a worldwide pandemic, right? But yet, why were certain places allowed to do things that certain places were not? What was that?
Well, people just went to their core values.
What drove that? The media drove that, and so people didn't know sometimes what to do, especially children that are now 20.
Yeah.
They're in their 20s.
We're changing everything in our culture right now, and I think that's what we always get down to and talk. For the next generation.
Speaking of,
I just heard over there.
There's the next generation of producers.
Yeah,
back
we're
there.
teaching them young here.
Yeah,
so we really like to.
They're going to be the generation of AI.
Look at that with we've been talking a lot lately with the community building, and it's like the kids don't need to leave their families. Like, why did kids need to go off and prove that they can find Newfoundland or something? It's not like we're exploring the world anymore. If you want to move abroad or you're ready to, you need to, but you need to put your resources together with, your family and your community. We're kind of talking about that in permaculture today.
You have to have it. Mm-hmm.
At the City Farm with Tree was like, hey, this is a core value here how are you going to make sure that you're getting, those things passed on? To those that, are coming up with us. So we really want to make sure that we're doing things together. And you start with that self is zone zero. So we call them zones, proximity. And then it's your family. And then it's your friends. And then it's your community. And so you keep scaling, things in your life up to that point. And that's what the businesses, if we scale them in the right place and we keep the money in our local economies, we can find a way that our vote does matter more. And that's what I meant about that kind of accountability. If we're talking about doing it with our money and with our votes at the poll, and then we do it with our time, and what we're passing on. So building culture in America, I think we're starting all over. So the kids, you don't have to go off and leave the farm and do all these things. We actually need the kids to come back to the farm. I mean, that's been happening throughout, Italy and Europe, where so many kids, they all went to London pretty much, and they found out that they didn't want the high, tech lifestyle necessarily when they had a farm or a vineyard or something they could go back home and start producing again.
Well, you can really get in depth to all our listeners. You can get in depth with my thoughts. I created the blog, What's on Melanie's Mind, or what I'm thinking, but if you go to Nature's Touch Nursery and Harvest.store website and just go to my What's on Melanie's Mind blog, you will see a write-up that I did, and it was literally, where did that come from? That came from being at the Acres Farm Conference. That has been me being 51 years old, realizing that my 23 and 20-year-old are in a different transition of figuring out where their next steps are.
Yeah.
Like, can they financially stay here? Can they financially stay on the farm and sustain it, their life, and maybe their children's life, right? Like, we're in that. And why at 20 and 23? Because people need to understand that Clint and I, my husband and I, made that decision. We bought our first home in Heritage Ranch when I was 19 and a half. He was 23 when we bought 4917 Sparrowhawk Lane. And, it's crazy because everyone told us we were crazy. We weren't married. Everyone told us we were never going to be able to afford it. I worked at, 3 different places. Clint worked for his best friend doing roofing and construction, which at that time in 1994, he started working for his friend, and then he started a property management company, and we have built it from then.
Yeah.
If we did not make those decisions then, we would never have what we have right now.
Yeah.
And so my write-up came from, I titled it The Generational Gap, right? And there's that divide, bridging that generational divide. And where is that coming from? Well, it's coming from is me and Clint really trying to raise our children holistically, right? Biodynamically, in a fully symbiotic circle, understanding discipline, understanding structure, understanding sometimes it's not going to be the way you want it to be. It's just the way that
but
it
balance
is.
socially, environmentally, economically.
But it's discipline, right?
Yeah.
It's not being
accountability.
told what you want to hear.
Yeah.
It's being told what needs to be done from experiences with the one I have. And why that's also so important is because as a consultant, I get called out to many farms, and the biggest thing I'm asking them is, okay, if you're wanting to grow something now, give me your list of assets, give me your list of tools, give me your list of your wants. What do you want? What do you see in this soil? And they're like, no, you got to tell me. I'm like, no, you got to understand. You either got to feel it, smell it, sense it, or it ain't going to happen. But at the same time,
I'm not going to be here every day.
so you're wanting to plant today.
You are.
So my clients, they want to plant today. Who's going to maintain it in 10 years? Who's going to maintain it in 20 years? Because that's about the time when it's going to become of a good
the next
age,
generation.
and a good age when it's actually going to become profitable. So what you're going to do today in farming, you're going to be investing in your next generation. And so 'tis the reason why I feel like I've given it to them straight, tough love, right? Like, this is the reality of it.
You got to.
Most people aren't getting into it because they don't have that next generation. I'm like, okay, where's your children? Or where, are you, but I didn't want to.
Or children from the community, yeah.
Or they have a farm. Where's their kids? Well, they didn't want to deal with this. They went to college. They went partying. They did this. They needed the next new car. They needed the next new this. They need, that was more important than the investment of that soil.
Or did
that
they
land.
squander it, and not
And so
care for it.
That's where it's like, okay, so it's more of a societal issue, right? Because, and I'm saying this we'll go back to that conversation that we just had, having 20 and 23-year-olds, you think that stage, which is,
2 and 6.
2 and 6 is hard, right? But 20 and 23, because it's, in a way, it's defining my future, but it's also defining my investment's future, right? How, what did Clint and I invest in?
That's the next level for
What
sure.
is that? Yeah, what's that next level? Because society has taught my children that it's better. The grass is greener on the other side.
To go away from home and do your own, build your own thing.
How are you gonna grow if you don't get away from your parents?
Yeah.
How are you gonna do this if you don't
Get your own piece of the pie and prove yourself.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, who are we proving to now? And I think that where we need to rely on each other, the many hands to make light work, more and more we need this community resilience. We have to start at home, and we have to start saying, do we trust each other and everyone there? And even if we are spreading out and doing things, do they have the accountability to be part of their communities wherever they go? Because like I said, it doesn't really matter who you are anymore. It matters where you are. How do you live in that place, and how do you become part of that community? And I think I see that so much here because our communities are small enough that as I meet new people that are here, as I meet people that have lived here or just meeting now, and all those that we've known for a long time, it's really something where people have that initial trust and interest to, band together and put projects together. I think keep our money, and put our money where our mouth is.
Keep our money where our mouth is. And it's that a lot of the times, though, I think we need to go back, Josh, because I honestly don't think people understand money. Because honestly, too, like we've been talking
it's just a resource.
It's just another resource. But at the same time, we've been talking a lot with just how society has changed drastically. Because, most people don't carry cash anymore.
Yeah.
Most people, I mean, where are cash receiving businesses anymore? Like
Sure.
we have doomed and gloomed them.
Even marijuana is getting some federal.
That's why you grew marijuana
banking.
was because you had buckets of cash, right? Like, you can't do that anymore. I mean, you can, but at what risk?
Well, it's getting
the risk is
outdated in a
higher.
way.
Yeah. Everybody pays either tap to pay, and I'm a culprit,
Yeah.
tap to pay or credit card.
Plastic
and
or
yet
virtual.
that money goes somewhere that people don't even know. I mean,
Sure.
I can explain merchant accounts all day long because I
Yeah.
have a couple of them, and I
Well, we
did
know
some
like
research
1 to
on
4% is definitely going, no matter who your vendor is.
yeah, I mean, at least, if
Yeah.
not more, because people don't realize that, all your reward cards carry a different fee for that merchant. Every card is
Sure,
different.
sure.
The merchant banks are going to get paid quadruple sum. Okay.
Yeah.
So every
The middleman's getting it.
penny they take, they're making money on it.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because, I remember when I was informed by our merchant account that, their fees were going up. And I was like, well, why? And then, every administration change, and this is again showing how long I've been in business, every administration change, how come merchant banks change? So every president that goes into office, merchant account changes. It's weird, very strange, but it just shows how corrupt our system is. But
Whose palm's getting greased.
exactly. But the sad thing is when I announced that, due to increased merchant fees, people were super upset. My
Yeah.
regulars understood and they figured out,
That has been a hard moment.
write a check or pay
Yeah.
cash, right? They weren't going to use their credit card. But it took almost a couple of years before people actually got wind that it wasn't just happening at the business levels, it was happening on their end.
Yeah.
And people didn't even know how to read their own credit card statements. And now people are starting to see, I mean, we have an administration now that wants to cap our credit card interest rates at 10%. I mean, even 10% is a lot, but people
Well,
are
they're all
paying
double that, for most part. And
triple,
plus, triple, I guess, now. Yeah, they're getting
And
crazy hikes.
Yeah, and I mean, where in society can you control your money or manage your money or put your money where your mouth is when a majority of the American society pay that way and they don't even know how to read their credit card statements?
Well, that's been that corporate stronghold, that everything has and everything having to have a price. And so that's where I think our exchange, those kinds of, club level where people are doing things that are part of their environment, and whether that is already naturally there or now formed by our land use, that's kind of where those decisions lie. And that's the accountability level. I think we're saying, up to that really regional level, but it starts from the individual, to the family and through. And so, yeah, when you have kids that are like right there, ready to launch. I mean, my oldest is ready to graduate high school, and then the little ones, 2 years younger than that. So it's like coming, down the line where, what are you going to do next? Where are you going this summer? Like it's coming up.
Senior year is hard. I'll be honest. There's a lot, and then that thing in your face that becomes that as a parent going, did I do enough? Did I teach her enough or him enough? Did I give her enough tools to launch off into that next stage? And what you thought you could, you can't now. But it's funny because it's that next stage that we've created as a society for what? I always say I dream of doing a farm school, but I'm actually at the point where I'm starting to realize that my stage of age is different. I can't.
You're ready to be a teacher. You're ready to retire.
I don't have patience anymore for bad behaved.
Well, that's what they don't need is patience from you. They need all the other knowledge and things you have.
I'm going to be that Henri Helga lady that's in the back.
They're going to send the bad kids to you on purpose.
I can't. I'm admitting I am done. I am looking forward to helping others help them their own, right?
Yeah.
Meaning I'm ready to be a grandma kind of thing.
You're going through the phases.
I'm going to help my children with their children if they bring me children.
that's what we owe the
But-
next generation.
Exactly. But I am not wanting to raise any other children, right? I can't do bad behaved anymore.
Yeah.
And the thing is that's where that farm school idea came from. But the farm school idea for me was I didn't want children until they were 6, and I wanted children until they were 26.
Yeah.
Notice I said children until they were 26.
That's right.
And people, if you understood the brain, right? The brain is actually formed in the womb, right? Actually, it starts absorbing in the womb, and then as soon as it's born, the child is born, it's developing until about the
It's
age
such a
of 5.
sponge, yeah,
It's a
right
sponge
there.
until the age of 5. Then from 5 is when it's exposure and coping and handling and emotions and puberty and childbirthing or
Growth,
maturity,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's the same
Physical
thing.
growth.
It's the same thing in our plants, right?
Yeah.
It's not anything different, but it's
Yeah.
teaching the human society about their own bodies, but understanding that 20 stages, those are childbearing years. If you really actually look at
Yeah.
what the 20s are, but we as society have put out, oh, you need to go do. Finish high school, which is important, but college, you can't have children until you get your career. But now you're in your 30s. Have you been taking care of yourself? Are you actually at a good stage of childbearing years, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so this is where I'm saying why it's so important that between 6 and 26 is the ages of development, the
Yeah.
ages of understanding, the ages of
Yeah, the
of
brain's not fully
coping.
developed till like 27, they say. Exactly.
Do people not realize that the age of coping really starts happening before of puberty?
Yeah.
Middle school. Why do all parents think that middle school age is
Yeah.
a nightmare? Well, it's because they're learning how to live in their bodies. They're
Yeah.
they're trying to cope with things.
Which are changing probably the most of any other point in
And
their
that's
life.
actually the most stage I feel like people don't pay attention to. That is
Yeah.
that is the stage that is so incredibly crucial to be able to get through this 20-year-old stage, because what was taught in middle school is
Gosh.
how they're going to cope when they're older. It's crazy, right?
100%. I see that. Yeah, it's like that's where, you're really saying like the problem is the solution, like we say in permaculture. So that age needs the most, because that's where the angst, that's where it happens. I mean, that's how this barn burned down.
The
that age
discipline,
right there.
structure, management, accountability, all these words you and I use.
Yeah.
That's the ages.
That's a
that
good
is
place to implement it. And that's where you need to start hitting like service corps and things we have in doing service for your family, or that's a rite of passage time frame for kids to grow up. But that's why we need Melanie's School of Well-Behaved Children.
I'm gonna hand it off to somebody. I
Okay.
have the whole layout.
We'll just put your name
creation.
on it.
I got
You just put your name
curriculum.
on it and we'll do the rest.
I mean,
Yeah.
I will volunteer.
Well, I think teaching is part of what, we get to this age, it's a great play to pass things on instead of physically having to go and consult and do every single moment. But yeah, having more spaces like that, doing more sharing, putting things together. I think that even in this time of adversity, and turmoil, where everything's changing, people are changing the laws, they're changing the rules of engagement for war.
When you can't play the game, it seems like people
Yeah.
always want to change the rules.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening, right? And people are up in there. So that's when it's time to build this foundation again, like we've been saying, and take accountability for our own children, for our neighbors, kids, for our, businesses, and for our, choices. And so I think that it's a perfect time. And so it's a good time to be launching people into the world, because now we can do it for them and they can do it for the next generation. And we have to pick a time. And it's like, again, not what are you against, but what are you for? And how do we put our hands together in that? And you have different groups that are going to do different things. And I think that we really are seeing it in our own hands. So instead of a time of there's complaining or complacency or, what do we do in these situations? You go ahead and you start investing your time and your
But how
money and your
about
energy
instead of complaining
into these
about
places.
how bad it is or how bad it's changed, right? Because I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
I'm recognizing and trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
But
you're
the
right.
thing-
You're
but the-
evaluating.
But the craziness about all this too is if I can create a solution, why are we afraid to call out the bad behaved? Because the bad behaved a lot of the time is the block of why certain
Don't
things
ask, don't tell. Yeah, like business as usual. Yeah, that's how we do it.
You don't want to hurt their feelings by
Yeah.
telling them they did it wrong,
Yeah.
right? Like,
You also get a medal, 11th
yeah,
place.
but then why am I saying this? It's life or death, right? Like everything on the farm is life or death. If you have something that's bad and
Very
bad
good name.
behaved, you have to manage it, because if not, life or death happens too imbalance,
Yeah.
right? And yes, it's
rogue animals, rogue weeds, rogue everything. Can ruin
bugs.
crops, rogue bugs.
Yeah, if you allow the bug problem to
rogue
continue.
I mean, any
if
treadmills you're on.
You don't read the ingredients right and the applications right, like, and you just half-ass things, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, and again, it's like when we say these words of accountability, there also has to come with, you know, being able to be told it is wrong.
Competence. Or,
to be able to be told
agreement
that, okay, recognize what you've done or what you're doing or what the society is lacking, right? And why is it lacking? Because mismanagement of funds,
is voted
wrong
lacking.
by putting the wrong supervisor back in his position way too many times. But at the same time, it's like take that and go, we messed up. How do we fix it? But don't go out and create more problems by complaining or, you know, protesting at I'm just going to say it, Saturday farmers market when those poor people can't even barely keep up because parking sucks. They can't get access to places that they can sell their food. Like, there's just so much, right? Like, protest for reason. Yes, I get it, respect. But at the same time, don't just show up because you want to be social.
Yeah.
Show up because you actually want change and you want something done.
Well, that's the accountability there, and you want to see things done. You should be putting money into the farmers market if you really believe that you want to go anti-oil and anti-war. You should go and vote, you know, with your dollar, like we said, into those local regenerative people.
Anti-Trump, if they really want to.
Yeah.
Like, if we had a food resilience, if we had a healthcare resilience, if we had our own balance of money, if we had a community that was being
asking for it from the government,
held accountable from right versus wrong. I mean, there's so many things that we can go back that we know. The Constitution, right? We're Americans. Just go back to the basics of Constitution. Yes, we can all go into a court of law and have it amended or mutated or transcribed another way. But at the end of the day, we can, as a society, if we had those basic fundamental structures in place, not relying on outsourced money coming in or money that wasn't being transparent about where it came from, you know, what it was doing, you know, that right there would make a huge impact that we could be anti anything outside of this community, right?
Anti-folic acid in our tortillas. And
right.
You know, but how do you get there? By making your tortillas here. Like we said, we got to start that tortilla as one of the first club orders, I think. I
like it. So, you know, how about rice and in my whole wheat flour under organic? And I'm like, take this back. When did we start putting rice in our whole wheat flour? And why? A
different desiccant than like Roundup or something?
Yes. I'm like, where did we? And okay, so again, let's go back to see what happens, Josh. I am in a passenger seat of a vehicle a lot, and I am, you know, it was raining a lot, so I was able to be inside. I just put it out there. I've been, you know, thank God for my iPhone and notes and autocorrect. And, you know, I'm really putting it out there because my latest two that I just put in was exactly this. It was, when did health food become non-existent anymore?
Watered down.
Well, Clint and I were talking about this. It's like, it's so crazy where did the juice craze go? Remember all the juice bars opening up? Everybody had a juice bar, right? Where are they?
Yeah, I've been looking for them a lot lately in places where I'm like, God, I gotta drive around to find.
They're gone. I mean, there's a few here and there, but then you go in.
And they might have stopped making more.
And then you go in and it's not like fresh food anymore that is being
the prices is squeezing everybody, and I think people are really willing to compromise at that level because it's there and available as opposed to finding these sources.
But why?
I think that we just don't have the cultural backbone to say this is what we stand on. Yeah. We stand on these things, and that's what we were talking about with like neighborhood. You said it was like redeveloped, but they took out all their gardens that have been there for their cultural, you know, kind of celebration and sustenance. You know,
question, is it a CC&R situation? So Josh is talking about, so there was a community that had all of their years of plantings that have been removed by who?
The developer.
But why? What was the reasoning for the removal of those plants?
To fix the buildings, and so they just like clear cut trees or whatever's there.
All of these people were tenants, correct? Yeah. Okay, so instead of, I'm playing devil's advocate here because remember, my husband, I'm also very educated in insurance and permits, okay? So, my own property right now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have an insurance audit that happened a couple months ago. And the first thing she said to me was, would you be willing to take these oak trees down away from your building. And I looked at her and I laughed.
In this spot? Wow.
And then I just got told that I'm not going to get renewed next year. So just tell, and do you know how hard it is right now to find liability insurance? I already have another insurance company. Guess what? I get to pay more, right? That's my choice. I have to pay more because I love those oak trees. And so I'm just putting this out there because I respect and love people for demanding what is theirs to be honored, right? But at the same time, they're tenants.
Well, I just think if they allow them to replant in the future, that's what was missing.
Yep.
So when we take things out and we say that there's some corporate blanket that it's easier to get insured and it's easier to do this, you start losing life.
I agree.
And quality
but how about
of life.
this? PG&E is replacing all the poles, right? So I have a pole that is, you drive in my driveway and you see it and I hate it, right? So what did I do? I went and, say that this is the PG&E pole. I planted about 6 feet around it. So when you drive up, you're still going to see the pole, but you're going to still drive up and you're going to see vintage mini roses instead, right? Because it's ugly. But it's still too close to that pole for PG&E's reasons, right? They're replacing it. How cool was it that I got a knock on the door, have no idea who this person is, a knock on the door and said, hey, your pole is set for, removal.
Next week,
Can we talk about, we're more than likely going to have to take those plants out because in order for us to get in there safely and do this removal, I said, when are you coming? And they said, approximately in the next couple of months. Cool. It's winter time. My roses are dormant. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to dig them up. Guess what I did? It is completely ready for them. I have moved it all out. My mother-in-law informed me that it's been there for 60 years, so there's a good chance when they're done, I'll plant the roses back, and I'll have another 60 years that maybe they might need to,
Well, yeah,
but
no,
I just
there's a
made sure that
value
it's
there.
safe, fire safety net, and they're irrigated, so they're always got
Yeah,
moisture.
they saw flowers, the roses there, and their grandma could have flowers because those are 60 years there.
Yeah,
so there was a value for that.
That human did take that time, but at the same time, Davy Tree Service that comes out and maintains the poles, they're always... it's not just me, because my whole neighbors, we all talk about this. Like, how cool is it that we have communicated and said, just notify us. We've opened the door to, okay, this is what we're doing. If we need to change it, because we understand things are changing. When it happens and there's no communication on both sides, you're already too late.
Yeah.
Right? Communication has
that's
to
what's
start
happening in certain
before it
places.
happens,
Yeah.
right? This is what I'm saying. When I get this influx of people going, no, did you hear? Did you hear? I'm like, yeah, years ago, you're too late. And I literally just said this to a family member this morning. I was expressing to them about some fire suppression stuff that's going on and that it finally is going to get released. We've all known it as restorative farmers and doing it. We've known that doing certain things actually creates a fire retention. Finally, the state of California is going to release it, right? Because they're being pressured because of all the fires that are going on. And this is kind of like an outline of what you should and shouldn't be doing. Oh, do what we've been doing for the last couple of years? Duh. Like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's the information that has to be shared.
But how come we're finally finding out, because we've been actively involved in saying we need a management of understory. We don't need clear cutting of understory. We need a management of understory, right? And it can be done right if you get the right range person in there. I'm sorry, somebody that's going to dump a bunch of sheep in a small area and let them graze on what they want and then vacate and charge you $60,000 later is not how you manage rangeland, okay?
Yeah.
But understanding
Neither
this,
is clear cutting,
and neither is clear cutting. I think that what those sheep have done is just as bad.
Well, if they're not
as a
managed,
clear-
they're just as dangerous of a tool. Just
Exactly.
like fire is a dangerous tool if it's not managed right.
And so the sad thing is I'm telling a family member because they're dealing with some Cal Fire stuff, and I'm like, all you have to do is go to the UC Extension Fire Forestry Management, and it's there. Well, Melanie, how would I even know without talking to you? I'm like, I don't know. And yes, a couple years down the road, something's going to happen, and then everybody's going to know about it.
Well-
we always find out things in conflict. Pandemic created media, or conflict creation.
Well, that's how change is
causes it.
created. I mean, the wolf and the elk evolved, and their bodies are in responses to each other. So they have been in a battle for eons, on how to evade and how to attack each other. And
Yep.
so we just need to figure out how to put
balance.
better practices and how do we let people know that there's values to these things. And I think that it's like with planting a tree, the best time to do it was 20 years ago. The second best time to do it is today.
Yep.
So once people have things ruined, you know, like this neighborhood that I was talking about and like a self-help housing thing where they didn't give the tenants ability to have the responsibility and accountability for taking care of their, you know, therapeutic garden zones, and they just, you know, clear cut everything. They're not only hurting those people's health, but they're hurting them, you know, and all these other social, you know, economic
my sadness
ways.
for them is that there was no value seen in what they removed, right?
Well, here's the other part. Let me just say is like things are happening in a vacuum. And I think that we need to, like you said, fill in the gaps in this knowledge because it's so easy to do. It's almost easier to do than doing it the hard way, which is, you know, all this stuff.
I think that every tenant, no matter what level of income that they are, has to truly understand the value of where they're living and what is important in that house situation.
And vice versa.
The landowner or the manager needs to somehow find the ability to teach that. And the reason is because most tenants don't realize what the landowners are actually really going through right now with insurance, with liability, with what you're required. I mean, you cannot have any kind of vegetation now within a certain percentage of feet into your structure. That's a California law that just got placed in 2026 because of all the insurance craziness, right? The California state agreed to do this, to mandate this, to keep insurance companies in the state of California. So what is a landowner going to do? They have to have insurance, right? They're going to go and they're going to clear cut it because that is what the state is going to say. In order for you to continue to allow those people to live there, you have to do this. And so this is what's happening. But yet the tenants see the landowners as bad, which communication, right? Communication would have created such a better balance in this. But at the same time, speaking from experience, tenants aren't necessarily receptive. They feel because they're paying that landowner or landlord that they have the right to complain or to throw a fit, right? Take advantage because I'm paying to, but they don't understand the property tax, the requirements, the permits, the insurance. You know, does most tenants even realize now that they're required to have renter's insurance now?
Yeah, but look, see, this is the thing. That's spoken like a true landlord. I get it. Okay, so it cuts both ways, and so yeah, I get it. Your tenants beware, but this is not. It's not just a communication, breakdown. It's not just a communication error thing or a need for communication. It's cooperation. Yep. And so back to co-op. That's the word of the day. But cooperation. So this is it.
Was it set up that way before?
Yeah, of course it was. For generations and generations and eons and millions of years, we've lived together in tribal ways.
In that situation that you're talking about.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. You, as a landlord, have an issue of cost to maintain what is there. And have insurances and those things. That's your pain.
Keeping families in their homes.
And this side is that these people have a right to have, healthy, clean air, water, and food and shelter. Mm-hmm. And so these people can help each other. The people, you need to maintain the space. So you need to have people that are willing to, do the cost that it takes to maintain the space so that they can have what's healthy for that, group and environment, and these people can have the cost down. And so what needs to change is the insurance people and the corporate and the government level. It's not these relationships. We can communicate and help each other.
Why are insurance being crazy? Because we actually do have fires.
No, because they don't know how to control fires. That is the thing. Let's be real. You and I are always real. We're not fucking mincing words here. Ooh. Let me just drop my first F-bomb, I think, in the whole year.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself.
Because I hit a button because I'm only doing this.
No, we're doing it from both sides. And I'm saying that these two sides are not against each other. There's a three-legged thing here.
Nope.
You have the government, or the lobbyists they saw, and then you have, the consumer, and then you have, the owners and that thing. So these people can help each other meet their needs. Mm-hmm. And what we have to do is this just needs to be a guideline. This guideline is getting too heavy. They think that we need to do these things and clear cut trees to be safe. No. People need to do things that are appropriate technology. So yeah, you need to limb the trees. You need to do a management of an understory. You need to do certain grazing things depending on the land and the type that it is. And if we can make those core decisions better, and so we could do that in cooperative neighborhoods. I mean, we could do that in the co-housing developments and those things in a way.
But back to my situation, why is PG&E changing all the poles? Why are they replacing the poles?
Because they think it's a cute thing to do to stay in business.
Nope. And they were only
Safer for a fire?
And you're talking to somebody that is
Okay,
driving
safety?
me insane because I don't like how that corporate structure is and how money, like how much our rates go up and down by what the
public
state of
utility stuff
California.
is insane.
It's
And
crazy,
they've
right?
been-
There's a lot of corruption within all of them,
Yeah.
not just one, all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, but why? Because I did my research.
Fire
why
issue?
are they?
I gotta
Why are they
guess, in
replacing the
California.
poles? Because they have been sued because of fires started on the wood poles, right? Remember how I told you we can throw laws out there.
I knew
we
it was
can
fire.
do we can do rules and regulations, right? But realistically, it is up to the courts to be able to say. And what I'm saying to this is also too that I should have been an attorney. I should have been an attorney
Yeah.
because realistically, everything if you actually do the research and understand why is this way of doing it is becoming so heavy is because the bad apples on the bottom have made it so cost heavy on the top because they can sue, because they can
'Cause we're
complain.
not taking care of our own bad apples and culling that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because there's always and granted, there are bad situations, and then there's the landowners or landlords or that are taking advantage of the situation. Yes, there's in every situation there is a bad, right?
Yeah.
But the overall why is because of the amount of lawsuits that are happening. And so as and using this, going back to this example, the landlords can't pick and choose anymore what is right and what is wrong, right? Because there's too much of an open door when it comes to litigation, right? And that's, again...
Because we need better communication cooperation to get to a better agreement
Yes.
place.
I was just in a recent meeting, and I'm just going to throw this one at you a couple weeks ago, that it was an outreach meeting, and it was about wanting to get to a lower income group of people that would be incentivized to add solar and all this other stuff to their properties, right? And when somebody stepped up and asked that the majority of these people were tenants, right? It became more of instead of actually helping the lower income, it was utilizing the lower income to get the others to pay those guys to say that they did it. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of this that is going on.
Yeah,
And that, again,
yeah.
and I hope that the tenants of your situation that you're using it as example, I hope that they can go back and communicate and create something that can take this horrible negative of all of that life lost, right? Because to me, when I see that being removed, that's life lost.
Well,
So
and the quality
why-
of the tenants is going down because they're getting asthma from blowing. They're getting issues with the management style. And I think that's where we got to draw those lines. And I think, yeah, it's great if you have an affordable living. Like I said, that's a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, here's an affordable box. But they didn't help these people, with that affordable housing. It can't be removed from affordable living. They need to have access to, the clean water and food part. And so having access to the food will not only improve the needs of the property for the property owners, but it'll improve the lives of the tenants. And so that's where that cooperation and bond lies. And I think that's what we're looking at. How do we improve our living through using our economics and where we're at? And so I think there's not anything that's wrong, but it's how do we balance these things out
One more
so that we
example.
can pay things appropriately.
One example, in the last 5 years, I have been called on small gardens that I have planted or, just different projects throughout the county. I've been called from my customers or friends, because once they're customers, they usually become friends,
Yeah.
to come and get plants out because the new owners, because the families are selling to go live with their kids because their kids didn't want to couldn't afford to stay here, or the house was too big, they don't want to deal with it, or they just want to move out of state because they don't want to live in California anymore.
Okay.
Do you know how many phone calls I get and is still getting of people coming, wanting me to come back and remove the plants that I've planted
To save them. Yeah.
because the new owners don't want them, or the same thing. An audit came through with their insurance and all those plants had to come get removed because
Compliance.
you can't have, a 10-year-old white sage, 10 feet away from your house. Do you see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying because I'm hearing it. My situation is different because the landowners or tenants or whoever, the occupancy of that property is calling me and saying, help me keep these plants alive before they come in and do it. And again, By the time that they're saying they're removing it, it's too late. We got to go in and do different things to be able to. And again, the squeaky wheel always gets.
Yeah, just putting the stakeholders at the table. How do we get everyone to the table again? And that's sort of that thing of how we're going to rebuild,
Josh,
renegotiate.
Money talks, bullshit walks. And that's honestly all it is, right? And look at this. This show is going to be titled Money's talking. Money's talking. Honestly, like
we use money to beat money. I mean, that's why we're in business.
Yep.
We're using money to make good things happen.
Yep.
Right, and that's our belief. So that's where it's not like money is the root of all evil, or maybe it is, but you have to use money to beat money. You have to use everything to beat it at its own game. So if we're ever going to take control of the gap between rich and poor and where money goes, it has to be saying that these things are there. And I guess I see compliance is really usually pretty easy. I've always been able to exceed expectations of like a city or a development kind of requirement thing. So we really have.
Do you want to try to get him on the show? Look at he's trying to be really quiet.
I saw someone sneak in.
You do recognize? Look at he's running. Miguel, that's my husband.
That's almost
he
a
actually
cameo?
exists. Look at he ran.
I saw him.
You saw him for a minute. Okay,
unless it was
ran.
Bigfoot, I don't know. There's a little foot.
There's Junior. Yeah, look at they're running. They're totally running in there.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you leave the door open,
I do have
right?
a husband. He really exists. Did you see how fast he ran?
That's funny.
Yeah, he won't go on here. So, anyways.
Maybe till next time or what?
Yes, exactly. No, I love this. I sparked you.
I like it.
I liked it too.
We're good sparring partners.
That's awesome. And because at the end of the day, we have to have balance.
Yeah.
You're never going to get told what you want to hear with me. And I like it. I know that with you too.
Yeah.
And out of respect, our passions and our energy could be used in good direction.
Yeah,
right?
we're using our hot air for good here. We're trying.
We're trying. All right. Well, reach out. We're back to normal, whatever normal is anymore. So we'll be back
We're
next.
around. We'll do this again.
All right, everyone.
soon.
Take care.